What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we've got some Destiny 2 Forsaken DLC news to talk about, and some other Destiny 2 stuff to round up. So Game Informer's coverage of Destiny 2 Forsaken continues, and today we get an in-depth look at the new Cerberus +1, the exotic auto rifle coming in the Forsaken DLC. We get details on how the weapon works, what exactly it does, some lore and backstory around the weapon, and some clips of the weapon in action as well, which is pretty awesome. On top of this, we also have new details about the Dreaming City, puzzles and challenges that you'll find in this space, the Ascendant realm and ways that you can actually get into the Ascendant realm, and then we've got some updates about content in Destiny, Bungie Day coming up this weekend. So we're going to jump straight into it. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, a like below is super appreciated. Now let's get into the details. So first up, we're gonna talk about a new exotic weapon, the Cerberus +1. This is a weapon that Game Informer revealed a few days back, and they go into a bit of depth around the weapon design, some of its abilities, and even lore for the weapon, so I'm just gonna break down their article. So first up, we have the flavor text, because 3 heads are good, but 4 is better, and this comes from a character, Jezza Jeopardy Verlaine. Game Informer say Cerberus +1 looks like what would happen if you tried to squeeze all of the ballpoints of a 4-color pen through the tip at once, broke the thing, and kept writing anyway. It's a patchwork weapon built out of 3 barrels, stocks, sights, and various remnants from other auto rifles, and fans should be able to spot some familiar parts. Greg Peng said there's some origin story in there, some of it's Kvostov inspired, but there's a bunch of various guns. Then we get some lore about it. So built by a Guardian named Jezza Jeopardy Verlaine, the Cerberus 1 uses a mysterious power source called the Photonic Heart to power its unstable physique. Though Jeopardy had other plans for the heart, she had to abandon them after a crash landing on the Tangled Shore, and think quick in order to avoid being ripped apart by its inhabitants. Using the scrap around her, she crafted the Cerberus +1 using the power of Phonetic Heart, which is inside the battery casing you can see strapped to the side of the gun. And we get a nice screenshot right there of a Warlock holding the weapon. They add that the Cerberus 1's ammo counter is kind of busted. It can only tell you how much ammo is left for one of its 4 magazines at a time, so the counter increments up and down as you fire. Don't worry about reloading though, you reload its entire magazine stock at once, like you would with a regular gun. So this weapon has 4 separate magazines operating at once. That's pretty crazy. They say the DIY look may not endear itself to everyone, but it's worth it for Cerberus +1's main attraction. Mowing down fodder and bosses alike with a constant rain of spread fire, the team admits the gun is inspired by Contra's spread shot weapon. Each of its 4 barrels fire simultaneously, leading to a constant spray of bullets in a large area. It's not really a gun that you aim, says Sandbox lead Josh Hamrick, you just point and try to get close. So they do provide a little bit of gameplay right here. We can see this weapon in the Crucible, and you can see that it's got a lot of recoil right there for sure, but it's also putting out a lot of damage. Pretty interesting looking thing. They say the weapon is best at point blank, where its spread is absolutely lethal, but as an assault rifle, it's not a slouch at range either. Greg Peng said it's tuned kind of generally to give the same DPS at most ranges, so it's got this weird drop-off pattern. The middle bullet is always in the middle, so you can always guarantee that at least the middle bullet will hit, but we get some information about perks. So it has a spread shot package perk, which focuses the spread while aiming down the sight, making it more versatile against lone distant enemies, and that means if you're being swarmed, hip firing will give you the widest spread possible to push them back. Fittingly, the gun's other perks are all based around its barrels. Its perks include Rifle Barrel, and this increases the range but slows down the reload time. It's also got Fluted Barrel, which makes it easier to wield and aim, then Full Bore, which further increases range, making it less stable and lowers the handling speed. They say it's a strange confluence of perks that seem contradictory, but that's to be expected when the gun itself is also cobbled together from parts that shouldn't really fit together. Game Informer say I was delighted to see a bevy of damage numbers pop up as I riddled the enemies with bullets. So of course, because it's firing all of these rounds at the same time, you can see all of those damage numbers going off right there. Also appears to have a pretty fast reload from the images we're seeing. On the subject of the spread shot perk, Claude Jerome from Bungie said, I find it useful for airborne encounters since it's easy to hit with. And they say the range of its shots also makes Cerberus +1 useful for unloading early in order to catch unsuspecting players around corners. Also to clarify, it is a kinetic weapon. A lot of people said before when I mentioned that this was probably an exotic that it didn't actually have an exotic icon in the HUD or in the UI. That could just be because it's in early development, maybe that's just the icon it's going to have. But there we go, a quick look at the Cerberus exotic auto rifle spread gun thing, which is pretty bizarre. Looks like it could be a lot of fun. I'll be curious to hear what you guys think. With all of the lore, it'll be interesting to see as well whether this will be a quest weapon or just a drop that you can get from somewhere. Either way, let me know what you think. Up next though, also coming from Game Informer's coverage, they actually spoke about some of this stuff in the Game Informer show, which I will link down below, but they give us more details about combat and puzzles inside of the Dreaming City. They also make mention of new items and consumables, things that you can use to get access to rewards or different activities inside of the Dreaming City. But they said that there are plenty of combat and platforming puzzles inside of this space. They described them as mini raid type content that you could do solo or with a small group. So I'm guessing these are kind of smaller engagements, maybe with some interesting mechanics. Also, platforming puzzles sounds pretty interesting. As I just mentioned, they did talk about different tokens that you can earn around the Dreaming City, but these sound kind of similar to runes that we would have had on the Dreadnought in Destiny 1. So it seems like some of these smaller puzzles or engagement could offer these kind of rewards, but they also said there are challenges that you can find which will lead to portals in the sky, and you have to figure out how to get through the portal to get to the Ascendant realms. So we have heard that the Dreaming City features an Ascendant realm, and there will essentially be slightly different planes of reality, different versions of the Dreaming City, all kind of layered on top of each other. Scott Taylor had previously said you may have to go into the Ascendant version to complete certain activities or to acquire certain items, but Game Informer said the Ascendant realm is almost completely black and white, and there are orbs of light which help you find your way around. And so we've seen some of these things inside of the gameplay. It's kind of like a super dark, desaturated version of the space, very similar to some of the entrances to the Kingsfall raid back in Destiny 1. So there's going to be tons of story and lore around that, which is really interesting. And they'd also mentioned that different secrets, different realms, and some of the various content that you'll find in Dreaming City will be on a 3-week rotation. And a lot of this will also link to the raid and some of the things that folks inside of the raid are doing. Scott Taylor and Bungie had previously said that the pinnacle activity for the Dreaming City will be at the end of the full kind of rotation of changes that it undergoes. So that sounds pretty interesting as well. Maybe we don't fight the ultimate raid boss until the very end. Maybe raid bosses even rotate on different weeks, but that's just an insight into some of the puzzles that will be in this space, some of how we will access different areas in the Dreaming City. Game Informer are going to have deeper breakdowns of the new content, and they'll even do a kind of preview of Dreaming City as well, where we'll actually get some in-depth gameplay. In a video yesterday, I did speak briefly about the Barons. Game Informer have also profiled these and given backstory, lore, information on the different abilities, but we did get confirmation from Game Informer that most Baron hunts do come in the form of adventures. We also saw this in some of the gameplay. You can see you have to hunt the Hangman right here, and this is going to be the free form part of the main campaign, the section where you can decide which Baron you go and chase down. They did confirm that the Rider, which is one of the Barons, has the main encounter where you chase them down on a Sparrow or a Pike, which is pretty cool. They also talk about the Trickster, who leaves heavy ammo bricks around the place, and these are like glimmering purple ammo bricks, kind of similar to what you'd see normally, but they're actually booby traps, so you'll go and try and grab the ammo, and whenever you're doing this inside of the Trickster mission, there is always the risk that they are actually booby trapped, like I said. So I think that's really cool, some different interactions that we're going to see in the expansion. We've heard an absolute ton about the Forsaken DLC, but just a reiteration of some of the things we haven't really seen yet. A big one is going to be Masterwork Weapons. Josh Hamrick had said that this is a reworked system which brings progression back to the weapons. Back in Destiny 1, we did actually have to unlock perks and upgrade them by gaining XP while using the weapons, but I also recall Josh Hamrick, I believe, saying that they didn't want to simply return to that system, so instead all of the progression inside of the new Masterwork system will improve weapons from where they currently are right now. And of course that's on top of random rolls. And mods. Mods is another element that we haven't heard too much about. We did hear of a couple of examples, mods which improve airborne accuracy, mods which increase your damage against vehicles, so they are definitely going to be perk style mods. Hopefully there'll be quite a bit more variety than that as well. But that is the stuff I have on Forsaken for today. Game Informer's coverage is going to continue, so I will keep you posted on all of the valuable news stuff that we learn. But of course, tomorrow, so on the 7th of July, it is actually Bungie Day, and it's always a pretty interesting one. You don't necessarily get in-game content or huge news releases, but they do tend to try and surprise the community with different things. And on the subject of this week at Bungie, somebody said, not even a mention of Bungie Day, what gives? And DMG simply said 10 AM PDT on 7/7. So 7th of July, 10 AM PDT, which is 6 PM here in the UK. That is when something, Bungie Day, is going to happen. Pretty interesting that it also correlates with the reset time in-game, but I don't want to speculate too much as to any potential things that'll occur. If there is anything particularly interesting, I'll keep you posted, but otherwise keep your eye on bungie.net at 10 AM PDT, and we'll have to see what happens. Another quick reminder in case you missed my video yesterday, starting today, so the 6th of July, there will be 3 times Valor rank gains in all Valor supported playlists. So for this week, that is Quick Play and Mayhem. If you play either of those over this weekend, starting today, you will get triple Valor rank. So if there's any stuff you want to unlock, now is a great time to jump back in. But guys, that is going to summarize this video. Let me know your thoughts on that new exotic down below. Pretty cool to get a look at it. I'd also be curious to hear your thoughts on the Dreaming City and some content you might be expecting to see. It's definitely one of the highlights of this expansion. But if you have enjoyed the video, a like below is super appreciated. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe to see a lot more Destiny 2 content. This week I did launch my first shirt in quite a while. So we have the Houndish Awesome Day shirt. You can get the version with the text or even a version which just has the logo on it, designed by my good friend and community meme star Faisal Meki. It's a really neat shirt, and of course if you want to check it out, it supports me as well, so I will link that down below. But for now, I appreciate you tuning in, and whatever you guys get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.